Testing. Testing. Lock in. We're going to get started in a second. Let a couple brothers and sisters get in here. If you're attending Baba Kasha, which means please in Hebrew, can you put your name and city so we could mark you down for attendance? We got Sister Nazam Amna in here. Y'all Shamal Ataba Shemel Shah, sis. The water for tapping in. I appreciate it every time. Sister Mana Ima. Y'all Shamal Ataba Shemel Shah, sis. The water for tapping in. I appreciate it. We'll get started in a couple minutes. Bear with me. The water says appreciate it. Most High in Christ. Shalom Israel. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua brought a thumb to the brothers. Yahweh Shemar Al-Athan Ba'Shem Yahushua to the sisters. I'm Priest and Officer Karan Yahweh the I.S.U.P.K. Loyally under Commanding General YAHANNA, and welcome to another installment of Criminals of the Caucasus. Today we're going to be getting into this Jewish cat who was labeled a racketeer and an American criminal named Arnold Rothstein. If y'all don't know who Arnold Rothstein is, this guy was born, we're going to get into exactly who he is, but he's most notably famous for fixing the 1919 World Series, okay? Oh, Salakia, let me share my screen. Okay, boom. Okay, so this is a picture of him right here. Make sure y'all can see this. That's a picture of the devil right there. You understand? You ever seen a devil? Every time you look at a Caucasian, because that's exactly who they are. That's who the Lord intended for them to be. But this is an actual picture of this devil, right? So hold on. Let me stop sharing that. I'm going to share this real quick. We're going to go to the, let's see. We're going to go to the Britannica. So read a little bit about this dude, and then I'm going to go to a quick Wikipedia search about this dude. They kind of like went a little bit in depth. Then I'm name some of the sources that they use to compile the information about him, which is pretty accurate. Arnold Rothstein, Slovakia. Bear with me. Okay, Most High Christ. Slovakia is kind of moving slow on my end. Okay. Okay, Arnold Rothstein, born 1882. It says 1882/83, around that time. Died November 6, 1928 in New York City. Was born in New York City and ultimately died in New York City. Says he was an American big-time gambler. He was a shyster. We're going to get into that. Bootlegger and friend of high-placed politicians and businessmen who dominated influence peddling in the 1920s in New York City. He was the prototype for F. Scott Fitzgerald character, Mayor Wolfsheim in The Great Gatsby. I haven't seen that movie, but that's who the character was based off of. It was based off of this brother. I mean, not this brother, this devil right here. The man who fixed the World Series back in 1919. Rothstein allegedly masterminded the bribery in the Black Sox baseball scandal. Bear with me. Computer moving kind of slow today. Okay. Born on New York's east side. Born on New York's east side of a middle-class Jewish family, Rothstein in his teens was already involved in gambling and loan sharking. And by the 1920s, he cultivated the friendship of politicians and businessmen as well as crime lords. He became the paramount fixer, one who acted as go-between in business contracts with the city in the quashing of arrests and extra legal permissions to operate speakeasies and other criminal enterprises. And in other bargain, he was also a banker for bootlegging and other illegal enterprises. Rothstein was independent without a continuing gain, working for all ethnic gangsters, Jewish, Italian, and Irish, and hired them indiscriminately. So Rothstein, he was different than the Irish mob and the Italian mob. He didn't give a damn what type of white dude you was. A lot of Italian mafioso and of course Irish gangsters at that time, they tended to wanted to do business with the people that was native to the countries that they came from. But Arnold Rothstein didn't give a damn about that. He was a greedy Jewish cat. He didn't give a damn about what you was, what type of background you had, as far as the country that your people came from. He will work with you. His well-tailored, well-mannered, quiet look of respectability, contrasting with the garishness of such mobsters as Al Capone, will prove model for later heads of organized crime. So Rothstein, he was a more of a laid-back type of criminal, kind of fly under the radar type of cat. He wasn't loud and boisterous, you understand, and braggadocious about his money or his ill-gotten funds, you understand, through his criminal empire. He was laid back, a little bit. He dressed like a politician or a legitimate businessman, even though he was a damn criminal. You understand? He understood that if he looks the part as a businessman, then white men would treat him as such versus looking and acting like a criminal or a thug, which is what he really was. On the evening of November 4th, 1928, Rothstein was shot in a high-stakes poker game at the Park Central Hotel in New York City and died 2 days later in a hospital without naming his killer. The trial of a suspect, Hump McManus, led to an acquittal. So this dude was eventually shot, you understand, probably because a trickster and a shyster. When he gambled, this dude was anything that he didn't know that he was going to win. He fixed poker games. He fixed dice games. He did a whole lot of shysty stuff in order to come out on top. Salakia. Wait. Okay, I'm sorry, Christ. Okay, so let's get to the Wikipedia search. And of course, I'm gonna get into the scripts as well. Salakia, y'all bear with me out there. It's moving kind of slow today. Okay. Boom. Nah, it's not on short. It's just moving slow. Okay, so once again, this is a picture of Arnold Rothstein, right? Arnold Rothstein, January 17th, 1882 to November 6th, 1928. So they did a little bit more extensive research to actually find the date of his birth, so forth and so on. Nicknamed the Brain, was an American racketeer, crime boss, businessman, and gambler who became a kingpin of the Jewish mob in New York City. Not only was he a kingpin of the Jewish mob, you got cats like Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel, who were famous gangsters that ran with Lucky Luciano, who was the essentially the godfather of the modern day American mafia. You understand? And he was Arnold Rothstein was a mentor to these cats. He employed a lot of these cats, taught them to transition from being regular young gang members that ran throughout the neighborhood and having a reputation of being feared. He transitioned them from being hoodlums to them being upscale criminals posing as businessmen, right? Rothstein was widely reputed to have organized corruption in professional athletics, including conspiring to fix the 1919 World Series. He was also a mentor of future crime bosses Lucky Luciano. If y'all didn't see The Last Criminals of the Caucasus, you understand, make sure y'all go tap in to this same page, to the same YouTube channel, and go look at The Last Criminals of the Caucasus where I cover Lucky Luciano. This is the guy that actually was a mentor to Lucky Luciano and taught Lucky Luciano to be more of a criminal posing as a businessman versus him just being a regular street cat. Meyer Lansky, Frank Costello, Bugsy Siegel, and numerous others. Rothstein transformed organized crime from a thuggish activity by hoodlums into a big business run like a corporation. That's exactly what he did. Instead of the mob just extorting people, you understand, and going out to these different neighborhood businesses, you understand, and doing stuff that just regular hoodlums would do on the streets. Instead of them doing that, he taught Lucky Luciano what it meant to pose yourself as a businessman and do more upscale crimes That way you can rub shoulders with the elite. You understand? It's easy for them to trust you, and you'll have more police protection from you posing as a businessman as opposed to somebody that's just doing crime on the streets. It's like you. I'm going to read that again. Rothstein transformed organized crime from thuggish activity by hoodlums into a big business run like a corporation and gained notoriety as the person who first realized that prohibition was a business opportunity and means to enormous wealth, who understood the truths of the early 20th century capitalism, giving people what they want, and came to dominate them. So Arnold Rothstein was essentially a drug kingpin, for lack of better terms, because during Prohibition, consuming, selling, or possessing alcohol was illegal. You understand? You like, it was a felony to have alcohol. But Arnold Rothstein, understanding that, of course, America was built off of crime, and him being a Jewish white man, you understand? This is how they live, right? So he took full-on opportunity to turn illegal liquor into an empire to get him and his crew of young thugs who he was trying to condition into being businessmen. He used this as a great opportunity to make himself wealthy and transition the people up under him from being just regular hoodlums and turning them into essentially CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, but on the left-hand side of the law, right? So like you. His notoriety inspired several fictional characters based on his life, portrayed in contemporary and later short stories, novels, musical theater productions, television shows, and films, including the character Meyer Wolfsheim, or Scheim, I don't know how to pronounce that, in The Great Gatsby. So lucky, I might watch that movie tonight. I need to watch it. Rothstein refused to pay a large debt resulting from a fixed poker game and was murdered in 1928. His illegal empire was broken up and distributed among a number of other underworld organizations and led in part of the downfall of Tammany Hall and the rise of reformer Fiorello La Guardia. 10 years after his death, his brother declared Rothstein's estate was insolvent. So let's get into his life a little bit more. Early life. Arnold Rothstein was born into a comfortable life in Manhattan, the son of an affluent Ashkenazi Jewish businessman, Abraham Rothstein, and his wife Esther. So now, when I read on the Britannica that he was born to a middle class Jewish family, that was pretty much a lie. This dude, like his father, it says his father was an affluent Ashkenazi Jewish man. These like Jewish people been having money. You understand? Ever since and I don't even want to say ever since they got into the land of Israel, because this is before that time. You understand? But his father was affluent Ashkenazi Jewish businessman. Now, you know how Jewish businessmen get on today. You understand? And it's been the same since they've been on top of the world. You understand? They always been people that have a lot of assets, you understand, and riches and wealth. You understand? So this dude, he was born in Manhattan. Now, when you look at the geographical location of different neighborhoods in Manhattan, the majority of the people that live in the terrible parts of Manhattan is the black people, and they live on the northern part of Manhattan, which is called Harlem. You understand? The Lower East Side, so forth and so on. But for the most part, the poorer people, you understand, or the people that have less money, are they live in neighborhoods on the northern end of Manhattan. You understand? Whereas downtown Manhattan, or what New Yorkers call the city, you understand? This is where your diamond district are. You understand the garment district is. A lot of these big industries that have wealth behind them are in Manhattan. You understand? So if this dude is a son of a prominent Jewish businessman, you understand, and he's from Manhattan, this cat got some money, right? His father was a man of upright character who had acquired the nickname Abe the Just. Arnold was highly skilled at mathematics, but was otherwise uninterested in school. So they saying that this cat, he had a skill in math, but he really didn't give a damn about going to school. You understand? And he grabbed me a wipe. And of course, you see his career as a racketeer or a so-called businessman. And of course, I say so-called businessman because he was, let's just call it what it is. He was a criminal. You understand? Rothstein was known to be a difficult child, and he harbored, a deep envy of his older brother, Harry, who studied to become a rabbi. Abe Rothstein believed that Arnold always craved to be the center of attention and became frustrated when he was not. And it makes perfect sense on the road that he went down, you understand, versus, doing the traditional things that his parents most likely would have wanted him to do. As a child, Rothstein began to indulge in gambling, but no matter how often his father scolded him for shooting dice, Rothstein would not stop. So this is essentially where his wealth began, you understand, from gambling. Of course, we're going to get into where he went after the gambling and the stuff that he invested in after that. In 1921, when asked how he became a gambler, Rothstein said, "I always gambled. I can't remember when I didn't. Maybe I gambled just to show my father he couldn't tell me what to do, but I don't think so. I think I gamble because I love the excitement. When I gamble, nothing else mattered." So this was Salaki. Gambling was something that he was quite fond of. By 1910, Rothstein, at age 28, had moved to the Tenderloin section of Manhattan, where he established an important casino. So this dude owned a casino in 1910. He also invested in a horse racing track at Harvey de Grace, Maryland, where he was reputed to have fixed many of the races that he won. I told you this boy was shiesty. Rothstein had a wide network of informants, very deep pockets from some among his father's banker associates, and willingness to pay a premium for good information regardless of the source. His successes made him a millionaire by age 30. Now, understand this. To be a millionaire at 30 years old in these times is wonderful. This dude was a millionaire in the 1920s by age 30. Salakia. There is a great deal, the 1919 World Series, there's a great deal of evidence both for and against Rothstein being involved in the 1919 World Series fix. In 1919, Rothstein's agents allegedly paid members of the Chicago White Sox to throw the World Series to the Cincinnati Reds. He bet against them and made a large profit in what was called the Black Sox scandal. Summoned to Chicago to testify before a grand jury investigating the incident, Rothstein said he was an innocent businessman intent on clearing his name and his reputation. Prosecutors could find no evidence linking Rothstein to the affair, and he was never indicted. Rothstein testified. The whole thing started when Abe Attell and some other cheap gamblers decided to frame the series and make a killing. The world knows I was asked in on the deal, and my friends know how I turned it down flat. I don't doubt that Attell used my name to put it over. That's been done by smarter men than Abe, but I was not in on it. Would not have gone into it under any circumstances, and did not bet a cent on the World Series after I found out what was underway. Now, of course, we understand why he's being accused of this, because more than likely he did, you understand, fix this World Series game in bribing the Chicago Black Sox players. So, hold on, Salaki. Was it the White Sox? Black Sox. Hold on. Yeah, the Chicago Black Sox players, or Chicago White Sox players, excuse me. They call it the Black Sox scandal. Salaki. In another version of the story, Rothstein was first approached by Joseph Sport Sullivan, a gambler who suggested Rothstein help fix the World Series. Rothstein supposedly refused Sullivan's proposal, but when he received Attell's offer, Rothstein reconsidered Sullivan's first offer. He figured that the competition to fix the game made it worth the risk to get involved and still be able to conceal his involvement. David Petruzza's biography of Rothstein suggests that the gangster worked both ends of the fix with Sullivan and Attell. Michael Alexander concluded that Attell fixed the series probably without Arnold Rothstein's approval, which did not prevent Rothstein from betting on the series with inside knowledge. Leo Katcher said that all the records and minutes of the grand jury disappeared. So too did the signed confessions of Sicot, Williams, and Jackson. The state, virtually all of its evidence gone, sought to get the players to repeat their confession on the stands. This they refused to do, citing the Fifth Amendment. Eventually, the judge had no choice but to dismiss the case. Katcher went on. Thus, on the official record and on the basis of State Attorney McClay Holmes's statement, Rothstein was never involved in the fixing of the series. Also, on the official record, it was never proved that the series had been fixed. Despite the legal case against the ball player defendants being dismissed, all 8 White Sox players named as trial defendants were permanently banned from playing and participating as coaches in Major League Baseball by the newly named first commissioner, Kennesaw Mountain Landis. Despite all the denials, Katcher noted that while Rothstein won the series, he won a small sum. He always maintained it was less than $100,000. It actually was about $350,000. It could have been much, very much more. It wasn't because Rothstein chickened out. A World Series fix was too good to be true, even if it was true. Well, basically what they're saying is it's a possibility that it's true, and he might did. But this dude was so slick and so cunning to cover his tracks, they never could prove it. But nonetheless, 8 of those White Sox players was banned from having anything to do with the Major League Baseball, with Major League Baseball. 1921 Traveler Stakes. Under the pseudonym Redstone Stable. Redstone Stable. Rothstein owned a racehorse named Sporting Blood, a very popular racehorse in the early 20s, which won the 1921 Traveler Stakes under suspicious circumstances. Rothstein allegedly conspired with the leading trainer Sam Hildreth to drive up the odds on Sporting Blood. Hildreth entered an outstanding 3-year-old gray lag on the morning of the race, causing the odds on Sporting Blood to rise 3-1. Rothstein bet 150,000 through bookmakers, allegedly having being informed that the second favorite, Prudery, was off her feed. Just before post time and without explanation, Hildreth scratched Gray Lag from the starting list. Rothstein collected over 500,000 in bets plus the purse, but a conspiracy was never proven. This dude was slick, you understand? And he was into gambling big money, you understand? He was, and this is how he was able to influence people like Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky, you understand, and Bugsy Siegel, because this cat was very successful in his business deals, even though, you understand, he's committing crimes. He understands how to mask himself as a businessman, and he's not going for 20, 30,000, which is a tremendous amount of money in the 1920s. He going for hundreds of thousands of dollars, trying to get to the millions. Prohibition and organized crime. With the advent of prohibition, Rothstein saw the opportunities for bootlegging and narcotics. Liquor was smuggled along the Hudson River, as well as Canada, across the Great Lakes, and into upstate New York. Rothstein also purchased holdings in a number of speakeasies. He became the first to import illegal Scotch whiskey in his own fleet of transatlantic freighters, knowing that high-end booze would be the chic thing to have. So this dude, he was sophisticated in his bootlegging. He wasn't trying to import cheap liquor, you understand, cheap gin and all of that type of stuff. He wanted that high-end Scotch whiskey imported from overseas, you understand, in order to appease the crowd that got the real money, you understand? With his banking support and high-level political connections, Rothstein soon managed to end run Tammany Hall to the street gangs. Subsequently, his criminal organization included such underworld notables as Meyer Lansky, Jack Legs Diamond, Charles Lucky Luciano, and Dutch Schultz, whose combined gangs and double dealing with their own respective bosses subverted the entire late 19th century from political gangsterism. 19th century form of political gangsterism. Rothstein's various nicknames were Mr. Big, the Fixer, the Man Uptown, the Big Bankroll, and the Brain. Now, Salakia, let me because Tammany Hall is a very historic place. Tammany Hall.
According to Wikipedia, Tammany Hall, also known as
Salakia. Tammany Hall, right? Was an American political organization founded in 1786 and incorporated on May 12, 1789 as the Tammany Society. It became the main local political machine of the Democratic Party and played a major role in controlling New York City and New York State politics. So this dude, not only was he a criminal, you understand, but he was, this guy was up there with the upper echelon of in politics with politicians. You understand? This dude wasn't no small time gangster. You understand? And when I say he wasn't a small time gangster, the people that he influenced to change from being small time hoods and thieves, from people like Bugsy Siegel, Lucky Luciano, them having tremendous criminal organizations, you understand, and transitioning into thugs that claim to be businessmen, he was above them. You understand? Like this cat was as high as you can get on a criminal totem pole in his day. You understand? Rothstein frequently mediated disputes among the New York gangs and reportedly charged a hefty fee for his services. His favorite office was Lindy's at Broadway and 49th Street in Manhattan. He often stood on the corner surrounded by his bodyguards and did business on the street. Rothstein made bets and collected debts from those who had lost the previous day. Meanwhile, he exploited his role as mediator with the city's legitimate business world and soon forced Tammany Hall to recognize him as a necessary ally in its administration of the city. Many historians credit him as the first successful modern drug dealer, because that's exactly what he was. You understand? He was like the brother Big Meats just came home. You understand? We got people you know, down there in Miami, the brother named his name was Convertible Bert. You got Rick Ross, you understand, the brother from down there in LA, you understand? Felix Mitchell, the brother from up here. All of these brothers have one thing in common. They aspire to be like the drug dealers before them, you understand, which were Caucasian men, you understand? And this is literally their way of life. You understand? Like when you see a brother in the ghetto and he's selling drugs, he aspiring to be like his oppressor. You understand? He's aspiring to be like a Arnold Rothstein or like a Lucky Luciano. You understand? And the crazy part about this story is, right, or not this story, but the history of this man, Arnold Rothstein, is this. When you think of bootlegging, when you think of being a drug dealer, when you think of being a criminal, you almost never think of Jewish people. Like the Christian church has brainwashed black people into believing, number one, that the Jewish man is actually the people from the Bible, which is a goddamn lie. You understand? And number two, that Caucasians do no wrong. You understand? I'm going to take it a step further than that. Jewish people do no wrong. You understand? And listening to the history of this dude, Arnold Rothstein, is proving that the white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of. You understand? His death. On November 4th, 1928, Rothstein was shot and wounded during a business meeting at Manhattan's Park Central Hotel at 7th Avenue near 55th Street. Now, mind you, Manhattan's Park Central Hotel, this is a upscale hotel of that time. Matter of fact, let me see if this hotel is still around. Park Central Hotel in Manhattan. Yeah, this hotel is still around right now. Right now, it is still around. How much is a suite at the Park Central Hotel in Manhattan? The classic room is classic room, one king size bed is $165 a night, and this is for Expedia, so it might be more if you just walk in there. But this is a prestigious upscale hotel. You understand? And he got shot at this hotel during what it said. I think they said it was a high stakes poker game. You understand? Like they brought some hoodlum shit to a high end hotel. You understand? Where he got shot, and ultimately it says he died 2 days later at the New York Polyclinic Hospital in Manhattan. The shooting was reportedly linked to debts owed from a three-day long high stakes poker game in October. for which Rothstein owed $320,000, equivalent to $5.7 million in 2023. God damn, Salakia. That's a lot of goddamn money to owe somebody over a 3-day period. He claimed the game was fixed and refused to pay, provoking his murder. Gambler George Hump McManus was arrested for homicide, but later acquitted for lack of evidence. According to Kevin Cook, author of Titanic Thompson, the poker game was fixed by gambler Titanic Thompson, born Alvin Clarence Thomas, and his associate Nate Raymond. Due to some complicated side bets, by the end, Rothstein owed $319,000 to Raymond, much of which Raymond, by secret agreement, was to pass on to Thompson, $30,000 to Thompson, and about $200,000 to other gamblers present. McManus owed Rothstein $51,000. Rothstein stalled for time, saying that he would not be able to pay until the elections of November 1928, when he expected to win $550,000 from successfully backing Herbert Hoover for president and Franklin D. Roosevelt for governor. Thomas testified at McManus' trial, describing him as a swell loser who would never have shot Rothstein. According to Cook, Thompson later told some of his acquaintances that the killer had not been McManus, but his bagman, Hyman Biller, who fled to Cuba shortly after. In Kill the Dutchman, a biography of Dutch Schultz, published in 1971, the crime reporter Paul Sands suggests that Schultz murdered Rothstein. He says this was in retaliation for the murder of Schultz's friend and associate Joey No by Rothstein's protege, Jack Legs Diamond. On his deathbed, Rothstein refused to identify his shooter, answering police inquiries with, "You stick to your trade, I'll stick to mine." And me, Mother, of course, Mother did it. Mother meaning his mother. His mother did it. Rothstein was buried at Ridgewood's Union Field Cemetery. You got to give him that. You understand? He stayed on his deathbed. He went out on his deathbed and didn't give up the person that shot him. I commend him for that. At the time of Rothstein's death, prohibition was in full swing. Various street gangs were battling for control of the liquor distribution, and carefully constructed political boss structure of the 19th century had collapsed. Frank Erickson, Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel, and other former associates split up Rothstein's criminal enterprise, after his death. The already weakened Tammany Hall had relied on Rothstein to control the new street gangs, and his death finished the corrupt political organization. With Tammany's fall, reformer Fiorello LaGuardia rose in prominence and was elected mayor of New York City in 1933. 10 years after his death, Harry Rothstein, Arnold's brother, declared Rothstein estate insolvent, and Arnold's wealth disappeared. Yeah, I'm sure it did. You understand? Salakia. Okay, Salakia. Most High Christ, young man, Jiren, Yahweh Shemal Shabrakatah, the water for tapping in. Sister Michaela, Yahweh Shemar Alathunba, Salakia, Yahweh Shemar Alathaba Shemal Shah says, the water for tapping in. Yeah, but that was the history of Arnold Rothstein. Now let's get into it. You understand? Let's get into these scriptures. The book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24. Salakia. This is the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. You understand? This dude, Arnold Rothstein, portraying himself to be a Jewish man, you understand, had the world at his fingertips. You understand? He had the bootlegging game on lock. You understand? He allegedly fixed the 1919 World Series. You understand? He was successful in all his business endeavors because he is the wicked that the world was given into. I mean, he is the wicked that he is the part of the nation of people, you understand, that received the world, you understand, because they are the wicked. Exactly how Arnold Rothstein amassed his wealth in his empire is the same exact way that this empire amassed his wealth, you understand, in general, by crime, you understand? And for anybody out there that's finna eat that dry ass turkey this coming Thursday on Thanksgiving, if you're a Black, Latino, or Native American Indian, you ought to be a goddamn ashamed of yourself. You understand? Because these same people, right, that taught us to indulge in their holidays, you understand, are the same people that rape, rob, and murder us, you understand, day in and day out in this empire, right? Arnold Rothstein, him being a Jewish man, is from the chief tribe of white people that pillaged the whole goddamn earth. You understand? Salakia. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. They covered up the faces of the judges thereof. Look at Arnold Rothstein. This is a goddamn Caucasian man, you understand, that was born into a family of people that trained the world into believing that they are the Jews of the Bible when that is a goddamn lie. They covered up the faces of the judges thereof, meaning the faces of the real judges of the Bible, you understand, are real priests and prophets of the Lord are Blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians. You understand? They covered that part up about history and put their faces. Matter of fact, Salakia. I'm going to go to the Apocrypha. Salakia, bear with me. First Maccabees 3 and 48. The book of First Maccabees, chapter 3 and verse 48. And it reads, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen have sought to paint the likeness of their images. That's what these Caucasian Jewish people did. You understand? They whitewashed the original pictures of Christ, of Paul, of King David, of Solomon. You understand? Of the real judges of the Bible. You understand? And they put the likeness of their image. This is why the world actually believes that the Israelis, you understand, the Jewish people that occupy that land over there in the Middle East are actually the people, you understand, when they are converts. You understand? They converted to Judaism during the time of the what was that empire called that they came from in Russia? The Khazarian Empire, Most High Christ. You understand? These Jewish cats, just like any other criminal. You understand? Matter of fact, they're worse than any other criminal because they run with the notion that they are the children of Israel. You understand? And use that to commit all type of crimes to continue to stay on top of the world. This was Hitler's problem with them. You understand? He understood that these people being criminals, you understand, was oppressing the Germans. So you know what he did? He went and unalived them, you understand, for the sake of his own country. You understand? Not that we advocate or agree with anything that Adolf Hitler did, but understanding what type of people that he was dealing with, it makes perfect sense why he did that. You understand? And these Jewish cats, they go all across the goddamn planet Earth, portraying to be the children of Israel, meanwhile committing crimes and oppressing the lands, you understand, and the people that they come across going to these lands, right? So, like, as a matter of fact, what's the next one I want? Proverbs 3:31. That's a perfect one. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 3 and verse 31. Envy thou not the oppressor and choose none of his ways. You understand? The Lord says, don't envy your oppressor. He does not want us to live a lifestyle like the Greeks, like the Romans. You understand? Like the Jewish man. You understand? He doesn't want us to see the power, you understand, and the influence and the wealth that they have from the crimes that they have committed throughout humanity. You understand? The Lord said, envy thou not the oppressor and choose none of his ways. Arnold Rothstein, he was a bootlegger. You understand? Essentially, in that time, he was a drug dealer. You understand? And it says he dealt in narcotics too. You understand? Those are the ways of the oppressor. You understand? As well as being somebody that's a shyster or somebody that cheats people out of money. That's exactly how he builded up his wealth. You understand? By fixing dice games, fixing poker games. You understand? The 1919 World Series scandal. You understand? He had the other scandal with the racehorse. You understand? This dude was a trickster and a shyster. You understand? He was a dishonest man, right? Salakia. What else did he indulge in? You understand? He indulged in every type of criminal way possible in order to get money. You understand? He was a loan shark. You understand? Which is called usury in the scriptures. Now, of course, it's okay for us to lend another nation of people money, you understand, and charge them interest, but we can't do it to our own brothers and sisters, you understand, because that's oppressing them, right? But that's the way of the oppressor. Because if you go get a loan from a check casher place right now, you understand, you get a loan for about $300. By the next week, when they want that loan back, they want $350 something. You understand? And then if you don't pay on that loan, you understand, they get sent to collections, it go on your credit, and the rates are astronomical after that. You understand? But this is exactly how the Jewish man amassed his wealth. And he ain't the only Jewish man I'm going to cover. Right? Psalms 55 and 21. Salakia. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 55 and verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. You understand? This Arnold Rothstein, he was a smooth cat. You understand? He taught young mobsters like Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky to be more of an upscale dresser. You understand? So people can perceive you as a businessman as opposed to being a goddamn criminal, which you was. You understand? And I'm sure he had the gift of gab. You understand? He has smooth conversation for people. That way they can trust him. That way they can indulge in business endeavors with him, and then he just doing bad at the end of the day. You understand? It says his words are smoother than butter. You understand? Salakia. But war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. You understand? Yeah. His words was smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. You understand? He'd talk a good game to you. You know what I'm saying? Make you feel like a friend of his. Meanwhile, he's plotting to scam you out of all of your money. You understand? He like you see it with all of the business deals that he had. You understand? And ultimately, it cost him his life. It said he owed $320,000 at the time of his death. You understand? In the 1920s, which was equivalent to $5.7 million. You know how smooth your words have to be in order to owe somebody $5.7 million in a period of 3 days in a goddamn poker game. He probably was sitting back like, man, you know, I'm good for it, man. Remember that World Series? Come on, man. You know, I got this. You know what I'm saying? Just he keep going on and on and on and on, and words are smoother than butter. Then eventually, when the game was all said and done, he was like, man, y'all niggas cheated me, bro. Man, I ain't paying y'all nothing. You understand? And ultimately, they smoked him. You understand? That's the ways of your oppressor, right? Slovakia. We get John 8:44. It's the book of John, chapter 8 and 44. Now, this is Christ's word. It's written in red, right? Ye are of your father, the devil. You understand? Now, of course, when Christ was saying this, he was talking to Israelites. You understand? But he said, ye are of your father, the devil, right? And the lust of your father ye will do. The devil, you understand, the type of things that blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians do, we as a whole, as far as being on the left side of being in the truth, we do the things that we learn from Caucasian people. You understand? Your father, right? A father is somebody that's going to teach you, you understand, how to do everything, essentially. You understand? Just like hearing the truth, you understand? You got brothers that's over other brothers, you understand, that we revere as spiritual fathers. You understand? Well, Christ said, ye are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. You understand? Our people who envy our oppressor, you understand? They do exactly what the devil has taught them to do. They scam and cheat people like Arnold Rothstein. You understand? They involved in shady business endeavors, just like Arnold Rothstein. You understand? Our people indulge in selling illegal substances, you understand, just like Arnold Rothstein. And of course, not just him, every goddamn person that you're going to see through this criminal of the Caucasus series. You understand? Our people do exactly the lust of their spiritual fathers, you understand, on the left-hand side. Damn right, devil meaning deceiver. You understand? Damn right, sis. You understand? But our people are going to do the lust of their spiritual father, you understand, the Caucasian man, without being in the truth. This is why you got brothers and sisters that's going to eat that turkey this Thanksgiving, that's going to eat the ham this Thanksgiving. You understand? Come together and pray over food that's a symbol, you understand, of Native American Indians losing their lives to these goddamn oppressors. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth. You understand? All of these Caucasians, you understand, are murderers from the beginning. The spirit that they have on them is the same spirit, you understand, as Cain, you understand, when he slew his brother. You understand? That's why the Lord said he was a murderer from the beginning, because that same spirit that Cain had on him, you understand, fell on Caucasian people, you understand, in these latter times. And abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. This dude lied and told these cats that he was going to pay them back to the tune of $5.7 million, or the equivalent of $5.7 million in the 1920s. He lying the whole damn time. He know damn well he not finna pay them this money. You understand? That's why he like, man, look, poker game rigged. I ain't paying y'all nothing, and it cost him his goddamn life. You understand? Most High in Christ, sis, the water. Salakia. Let's see, is this what I want? It's the book of Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 6. Lest there be any fornicator and profane person as Esau, Like this dude was a profane person. You understand? Because this is the culture of these Edomites, to be fornicators and profane people. You understand? For one morsel of meat sold his birthright. Like this cat, he came from the background, you understand, of a pretty well-off Jewish family. You understand? But he didn't want the birthright that he was given to be an upstanding citizen like his father was. He didn't want to be a honest businessman. He didn't want to aspire to be a rabbi like his brother. This dude wanted to do exactly what the hell he wanted to do, which was be a criminal. You understand? And of course, ultimately, he was very successful in it, and it cost him his life. You understand? What can I say? This is the life of criminals of the Caucasus. You understand? That's gonna go in and conclude this episode. The water to everybody for tapping in. The sister Salakia. Go down this roll call one more time. Sister Nizam Anah, the water sis. Mana Ima, the water sis. Sister Michaela, the water. Young man John Rent, the water. I appreciate you. You understand? Make sure y'all tune in next week, Lord allow, for another episode of Criminals of the Caucasus. Yahweh by Shem Yahushua brought a thumb to the brothers. Yahweh Shamar Allah Thun by Shem Yahushua to the sisters. Shalom, Israel.